All right, old school NBA fans, self-researched NBA facts. Got another video for you. As usual, thanks to anybody watching my videos, subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it. You guys are great. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. It's content almost daily. Same kind of things, comparing the all-time greats, looking at different angles that you really don't see from definitely not the main media and maybe just a handful of content creators. That's what I'm going for here. And in this particular video, what I was looking at was how many of the all-time greats. Now, I just did my top 25. How many of my top 25 all-time greats have ever been swept? Now, I only did 4-game series, the best of 7 game series. And the reason for that is because there were series back in the 50s, and I think it was mostly the 50s, that were even like, best of 3. There was even some in the 70s and 80s first round that was best of 3. And then, of course, there was best of 5 all the way up through 2002 for the first round. I think from like the late 60s, mid 60s, all the way until 2002 is best of 5. And I didn't include those because, again, that's not an apples to apples comparison. Teams could get down 3-0 and then win a game and then lose in 5. You see what I'm saying? Like, for example, just last year in the first round, Denver against the Lakers. Well, if it was a best of 5, Denver was up 3-0. Then that was it. The series would have been over. But since it was a best of 7, it ended up being 4-1. So that's why I only did 7-game series. And to some of the older players, they won't have quite as many series, but, that's the best way to compare it in my mind. So Nikola Jokic, he has had 14 playoff series because all his were best of 7. 1 he got swept in, and that was in 2021 in the conference semifinals, Western Conference semifinals, against Phoenix. Now, Denver was the 3 seed, so it's not like they were, out of their depth or something like that. Not like they were the 8 seed against the 1 seed. No, that's not what this was. Phoenix was the 2 seed, and Phoenix swept them, plain and simple. So he got swept once out of 14 series, which compared to everybody else, it's pretty much middle of the road. It's okay. Giannis Antetokounmpo at number 24, out of his 15 series, he has not been swept yet. And another thing I wanted to add was only series in which the player either started all the games or it played at least half the series or was top 5 in minutes played. So, some of the ones like, for example, Kobe Bryant in 1997 as a rookie, even though I don't think they got swept that year. He didn't play enough minutes to even qualify. I think even in 98, actually, Kobe would not be on there because he didn't play enough minutes, and they did get swept in 98 by Utah. But that I didn't hold that against him because he didn't play enough minutes to have enough of a contribution to, have a personal effect on the series. But Giannis Antetokounmpo has not been swept in his 15 series yet so far. So that's good. That's the best you can hope for, is not being swept. Number 23, Elgin Baylor, which I was very surprised at. Only 1 time in 22 best of 7 series was he swept. And that was against the Boston Celtics in 1959. And that would have been before Jerry West was there. So he was clearly the best player. Number 22, David Robinson. In his 16 series, only 1. That was the 2001 Western Conference Finals against, the Lakers in 2001. That was the only time he got swept in the best of 7 series. So it's not bad. A lot of people think that team's one of the best of all time. Number 21, Bob Pettit. He only had 10. He was never swept. Now, of course, he had more series than that, but he only had 10 best of 7s. And he was, 10 for 10 as far as not getting swept. Kevin Durant at number 20. Since all his series were best of sevens, he had 32 series. He got swept twice, and they were both pretty recent. 2022, as the 7 seed, he was on Brooklyn, got swept by Boston. If I remember correctly, they should have won game 1, but they kind of blew it. And then just this past season, as the 6 seed, they got swept by Minnesota. He was on, Phoenix, the 6 seed against the 3 seed. But it wasn't that big a disparity in win total. I think they were a 49-win team. Minnesota was like 57, if I remember correctly, 56 maybe. So it wasn't a huge disparity. But he has been swept twice. Those are them. Number 19, Kevin Garnett. In his 18 playoff series, he's never been swept. I thought that was pretty good because he played, Dirk Nowitzki's Mavericks, and he played, Duncan Spurs. Definitely played the Lakers a few times. Never got swept. That was nice. And then, of course, when he was on Boston and all that, they had a good team, of course, but pretty good. Number 18, Karl Malone. In his 21 best-of-7 series, he never got swept. Now, he did get swept in some best-of-5 series, but again, we can't bring those in simply because a best-of-5 is not the same as a best-of-7. It's just not. There were teams that avoided sweeps by winning that game 4 and then, losing the game 5, whatever. Number 17, George Mikan. He only played 5, and he never got swept either. Most of his series were round robins, believe it or not. I couldn't even believe all the round robins they played back then, or best of 3s, best of 5s, but he only had 5 actual game best of 7s, and he didn't get swept in any of them. Number 16, Oscar Robertson. In his 11 series, he also never got swept. Number 15, Steph Curry. All his series were best of 7, and he never got swept in his 28 series. And that's actually the best so far to go that many series without being swept. Moses Malone, which I was surprised how low the number was, only 13 best of 7 series. He did get swept once, and that was 1980 Eastern Conference semifinals when he was on Houston. He got swept by Boston Celtics. Number 13, Jerry West. He never got swept in 24 series. So that's really good. Number 12, Dr. J. Never got swept in 29 series. That's the best. I'm about halfway done with this list, and that is the best on this list. That's impressive. Now, he was on some good teams, sure. But the thing is, when you're on a good team, you're going to come to a point where you're going to play other good teams, the conference finals, the NBA finals. So the possibility of getting swept is increases because you're playing the better teams. And he definitely swept some teams too. I think I'm going to do, my next video is going to be about how many actual sweeps in best of 7s did you have. Maybe I'll take out the first round, though, of some of the more modern players, though, because that's an unfair advantage, getting to sweep a team in a 4-game series, which, all the other teams would have done too. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to tell me that, the 1989 Lakers, they wouldn't have swept because they won every game in the Western Conference playoffs that year. They were, I think it was 11-0 going into the finals, so they easily would have swept the first round. But anyway, Dr. J, no sweeps in 29 series. I did include the ABA too. Number 11, LeBron James. In his 54 series, since all of his were best of 7, he got swept 3 times. That was against in the 2007 finals against the San Antonio Spurs. Now, again, everybody talks about how overmatched they were. Now, to a certain extent, that's true. But keep in mind, San Antonio wasn't even the best team that year. They were the 3 seed. That was the year that Dallas, a 67-win team, got swept or got beat in the first round, upset by Golden State. So Cleveland didn't even play the best team the West had to offer that year. And Cleveland themselves was the 2 seed. San Antonio, the 3 seed. San Antonio had won, I think, 7 or 8 more games, so they were clearly the better team. But if you go back and watch, it wasn't Tim Duncan that destroyed them in that series. He didn't win MVP. It was Tony Parker. So, this guard every position thing, that right there kind of puts a damper on that. The 2018 finals, Cleveland was the 4 seed going up against Golden State, and they were the 2 seed. Clearly Cleveland was not in the same league as Golden State, even though win-wise, I think they were only 8 wins behind them, and they did have a chance to win game 1. But, clearly Golden State was better, but to get swept in the finals, sure, it happens. And Golden State was, they had a great run. They were a great team. I don't really hold it too much against them for that one at all. I just don't. The 2023 Western Conference Finals, the Lakers were the 7 seed, Denver the 1 seed, but there was some discrepancy in win totals there. But the Lakers, they beat Memphis, they beat Golden State, and Denver just, they just rung their bell basically, and they swept them. So out of 54 series, he got swept 3 times. But don't worry, LeBron fans, he's not the worst on this list. Number 10, Shaquille O'Neal. Now, he's done a lot of good things. Like, he has a good record against all NBA players and all defensive players. And, I just did some videos on that. He did really good. But he got swept more than he should have. In the best of 7 series, he played 38 of them. He got swept in the 1995 finals. And I do hold it against him, because Houston was the 6th seed. Now, granted, they were playing well. They had beaten some good teams. But Orlando, they beat Jordan and Pippen in the Bulls, in the conference finals, semifinals. Then they beat Indiana in the conference finals. 2 pretty good teams right there. To get swept with home court advantage, to me, there's no excuse for it. You cannot get swept when you have home court advantage. That's just my belief. 1996 Eastern Conference Finals, Orlando, the 2 seed, they won 60 games. The Bulls, the number 1 seed, who most people say is the best overall team of all time. He got swept there. Now, Horace Grant did suffer an injury that probably contributed to some of it. But even with that, Penny Hardaway finished 3rd in MVP that year. He was dynamite. Probably better than Pippen in my mind overall. Everything into consideration, he was probably better than Scottie Pippen. And, they got swept. What can you say? That's it. Well, I think one game they scored like 67 points or something. I mean, it wasn't very good. 1998 Western Conference Finals, Lakers and Utah. They got swept. Lakers were the 3 seed. They won 61 games. And Utah was the 1 seed. They did have home court advantage, but they won 62 games, just 1 game more. So to get swept there, I thought that was also embarrassing. 1999 Western Conference semifinals. The Lakers were the 4 seed. They got swept by the Spurs, who were the 1 seed. Not quite as embarrassing, but you did have a 3rd-team All-NBA player in Kobe Bryant. You had some good players. You had Glenn Rice. I mean, you had a good team. To get swept there, it's embarrassing. 2007, when Shaq was on Miami, he had home court advantage as the 4 seed. Got swept by Chicago, the 5 seed. I think that was like Kirk Heinrich and Luol Deng, and I don't know, maybe Eddie Curry was on that team, but an embarrassment. You had home court advantage. You got swept. That's 5 sweeps in 38 series. That's not good. And so far, that's by far the worst on this list. Number 9, Tim Duncan. Of his 44 series, he got swept twice. 2001 Western Conference Finals, where he had home court advantage against the Lakers, but the Lakers' record was deceiving. I give him maybe a tiny small pass on that one, but even still. 2010 Western Conference semifinals, got swept by Phoenix. They were the 7 seed. Phoenix was the 3 seed. Maybe a little bit outclassed there, but to get swept, I don't know. Especially as good as San Antonio was for that long period of time. Number 8, Hakeem Olajuwon. The only time he got swept in 14 best-of-7s was the 96 Western Conference semifinals. Houston was only the 5 seed. They had injuries that year. Olajuwon himself was injured. They lost to Seattle, who's a very good team, 96 Sonics. But nonetheless, he got swept. That's the only 7-game sweep he had of his career. Will Chamberlain, the most surprising, no sweeps in his 23 best of 7s. Impressive. Larry Bird, in his 24 best of 7 series, he got swept once. 1983 Eastern Conference semifinals. Boston was the 3 seed, Milwaukee the 2, but Boston had home court advantage. So Bird did get swept once, only once, but it happened. Number 5, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The 1977 Western Conference Finals against Portland. I know they had some injuries, but still, you're the 1 seed, home court advantage, shouldn't have got swept. 1983 Finals, going up against, one of the best teams of all time, no doubt about it. The Philadelphia 76ers, they got swept, wasn't really that competitive at all. But, the Lakers they had a good squad. I thought, on paper, very comparable to the 76ers. But they got swept. 1989 Finals, now against Detroit. Again, Detroit's one of the best defensive teams of all time. I just did a video on that. Magic got hurt 5 minutes into Game 3. I think it was Byron Scott was out. So maybe a tiny pass on that one. But still, he did get swept, and that was the last series of his career. So he got swept 3 times out of 36 series. Number 4, Kobe Bryant. He got swept twice in 33 series. I did not include the 98 conference finals against Utah because he didn't play enough minutes. But the 99 Western Conference semifinals against San Antonio, he's definitely owns that. And then in 2011, the Lakers against Dallas. The Lakers were the 2 seed, Dallas the 3 seed. Lakers were the 2-time defending champions. Don't really have a good excuse for that. Some people say that Kobe was a little banged up. Maybe that's true, but still, he does have 2 sweeps. Magic, 2 sweeps out of his 30 series, and it was the same I just said about Kareem. In the finals in 83 against the Sixers, 89 the finals against the Pistons. Hold on. All right, sorry about that. Get almost done with the video, and somebody rings your doorbell. Unbelievable. Okay, so anyway, Magic, he had 2 sweeps in 30 series, but they were against, great teams. The 83 76ers and the 89 Pistons were technically, he did play, over half the series by like 5 minutes. So technically you can put it on him, but not really. He missed basically 2 whole games out of 4. So, you can put it on technically. I did, but it's kind of ridiculous. Number 2, Bill Russell, never swept in his 26 best of 7 series. Number 1, Michael Jordan, never swept in his 24 best of 7 series. So honestly, when I look at this, the person I think did the best was Dr. J. 29 series, best of 7s, and never got swept. To me, that's the best. Curry not far behind with 28, and Russell, Jordan, they're right there with the never being swept. Will Chamberlain, believe it or not, is right there. But the people that stood out, obviously, are LeBron James with being swept 3 times, Shaquille O'Neal being swept 5 times, and Kareem being swept 3 times. Those 3, I believe, are the only ones who got swept 3 times. And the only ones who got swept, or 3 or more, I should say, the only ones that got swept 2 was Kevin Durant, Kobe, and Duncan, and Magic. They got swept twice each, even though Magic's is kind of suspect. But that's it. Everybody else was either 0 or 1. But again, LeBron, Kareem, and Shaq, 3 guys in my mind are overrated. Some more overrated than others, and some of them are way overrated, and some are just a little overrated. But nonetheless, these 3, I thought, all things considered, are a little bit overrated. And when you go by this, to me, it's another angle and more evidence of it. So anyway, that's about it for this video. Let me know what you think was the most impressive or most unimpressive on this list. And thanks for watching. Until next time.